everyone out there. Come on, let's talk some Python. Let's talk EEM. Let's talk iOS XE. Can everyone hear me okay? No, come on, join in. All right, everyone, my name is Palmer Sample. I'm a developer advocate here with Cisco Learning and Certifications. Hey, welcome. Hi. So I focus on automation boot camps. We actually have a team dedicated to this. We're going to have a little bit of fun today. We've got about 78 slides. We're going to go through all of those in the next 15 minutes, or we can actually have some fun and see what's going to happen with EEM. So, oh yes, here's the title. We've already been through this. Write memory, EEM, GitHub, Guestshell. On their own, they mean things. Together, they can also mean something. So, as we go through our automation journey, there are a number of ways that we can get some, maintain our running config. We want to maintain some kind of archive, if nothing else, disaster recovery, right? So we can actually use EEM to trigger a Python script. That's what we're here to talk about today. What's going to happen when we perform a write memory? We're going to set up EEM to watch for a syslog message. And it's going to tell us, you've probably seen this before, configured by developer on whatever date, whatever time. We get that in the syslog. We can watch for that message with EEM. What happens? EEM, that's Embedded Event Manager. For those of you not familiar, anyone here using EEM on your devices? It's very useful, right? Well, it can be part of your automation flow. With EEM, we can actually trigger an applet inside of the Guestshell. Show of hands, anyone familiar with Guestshell? Okay. Well, let's talk for a second before we get into it. Guestshell is an embedded container inside of iOS XE. You can run it. It's essentially a Linux machine or a Linux container, and it has Python installed. And we can manage it just like any other Linux machine. We can install packages into it, and we can store files inside of that container that are accessible on the boot flash. This is important. Why? Whoa. So why is that important? Because with EEM now, we tell it when this happens, this syslog message comes in, run a command, Guestshell, run Python 3 something, and we can point it to the script in the boot flash, and that script will be executed. All right, that's a good start. So our Python script, what we have it configured, here's the fun part. Anyone here use Python or ever played with it, ever looked at it a little bit? All right, a lot of hands here. With Python, you can import modules, and they give you added functionality in your scripts. So within the Guestshell, in that Python 3 environment, we actually have a module that lets you interact with that local device, that iOS XE device. So we can run CLI commands. I'm using Python. I can execute CLI commands. I can, because it's Python, it's a script, that means that I can take some data and I can output it and save it as a file. So we can save the running configuration to a file in our boot flash. What does that mean? Anyone here use GitHub? Show of hands? All right. That means that we can initialize a repository inside of that Guestshell. So now we've got iOS XE, we've got Guestshell, we're running Python, and we're saving it inside of a local Git repository. Once we have the local Git repository, we can then push to whatever our remote server is. In this case, we're using GitHub. Now we can actually use the diffs embedded, the diff capability of Git or GitHub and find out what changed. So what does this mean for us as networkers? This means anytime a change is made on the device and that change is saved to the running configuration, that change is automatically going to get archived and sent up to GitHub. Right? Shall we take a look? Oh, come on, wake up. Shall we take a look? Oh, yes. Oh, ow. There's a lot of static in here. Well, let's take a look. Let's look at a little bit of code. We're not going to spend all day here, although we could. And by the way, anyone that wants to look at this code, come and see me, or it'll be published on GitHub for the public. So what we do here, notice the repo path is home Guestshell. This might need to be a little bit bigger, not smaller, bigger. So here in our Python script, all we've done is tell it where the repository is. Home, Guestshell, I call this iOS XE EEM backup. That's the name of the repository that we created in GitHub. I created a regular expression because that syslog message is going to come in. It's going to say last configuration change at some date and time by some username. I can extract that date and I can extract that username. I'm going to use that for my commit comment. So it'll commit the running configuration. It'll say configuration change on this date and this time by this user. All right. We've got a couple of commands here. We just created a function here that allows us to run a command, like a Linux command, inside of the Guestshell. And where we're going to use this is when we do some Git operations in a moment. But save running configuration. We created this function. What does it do? Remember, a few moments ago, we just talked about how we can import the CLI module and interact with the iOS XE device. Running config equals, look, see this CLI? That is in Guestshell. I didn't have to write this. We have this function called CLI. We can run this. Show running config, begin, exclamation point. All right. Once we have that, we're going to open an output file for writing. We're going to write out the running config to that file. Let me scroll up so everyone can see in the back. We're just checking for errors here. Not a big deal. Now, git pull. We've got some git commands. First, we're going to pull from the repository to make sure we're up to date, so we don't have any merge issues or anything. So we're going to just do that shell run that was defined earlier. All it's going to do is run the command git pull in our directory where the repository is. After that, we're going to add the running config into the repository. We're going to commit. We're going to comment by default, just say device configuration changed. But no, when we actually do it, we're going to put that date stamp and that username. And then we're going to push the configuration to our repository. So this is just the code that does it. We grab the information. Oh, yes, of course. We can't just have a file name called running config because we have more than one device in our network. Some of us may, some of us may not. But I want to call that file name hostname-config.txt, for example. That's all this logic does. Just know it's going to set the name of the file to something that's not going to, step on every other device. We set the timestamp. There's not much code here. Again, we can go through it. The important thing is we do a git add, a commit, and a push. Now, we do all of these things as developers and while we're learning. And then we come up here and we get to Cisco Live and we have this incredible group of people that are all wanting to learn. And then we really, really hope that this works. Let's find out. Oh, we're missing something though, right? What is it that we need to configure so that this can run? Anyone? Right. Embedded Event Manager. We have to configure our EEM applet. Ow! Jeez. Hey, anyone got a grounding strap? Okay, and hopefully our session is not disconnected. Okay, everyone see this? Is it large enough? Everyone see this? All right, let's take a look. Let's do a show run. Let's type show properly. All right, or run. Gee whiz, what's going on here? We'll do a section event. Okay, this is a little. This needs to be bigger. This isn't good enough. Lacey, do we have time? We got plenty of time for me to find out if my code is going to work or if it's going to be a huge fun experience for everyone. Might be a little bit too big. Okay, so, well, without playing with the terminal too much, let's take a look here. What do we have? Event Manager Applet. I just called it Config Archive. Our syslog pattern. This is what's going to trigger this EEM applet. sys5 config I, configured from console. If I see that in the syslog, this applet will run. We have two actions here. We have a CLI command to go into privileged exec mode. And the second action, Guestshell, run Python 3, boot flash, guest share. This is just where it's located in the guest or on the flash. iOS XE Guestshell backup. That's the name of the repository containing the script, and then we run the Python script. This is it. What is this? 1, 2, 3. What is that? About 4 lines for the EEM applet. That's it. So let's take a look at our gigabit 1. Let's see. Okay, we don't have a description here. Let's set a description. Interface gig 1. Description. Hello, Cisco Live. Okay, let's see. Do we have a description? Did I type that right? Okay, we have a description. We got 1 minute left. Let's see what happens when we do a write mem, when we save the config. Not much, huh? Building config. Well, everyone's ready. Here we've got our GitHub repository. The name of our device was what? Cisco Live-router. So I need to find a file in here called Cisco Live-router. Cisco Live-router. I am going to refresh. Come on, say now. Where did it go? Ah, it's a little bit lower on the screen, huh? Cisco Live Router config, updated now. Part of it worked. What can we do with this? Let's take a look. Okay, we've got our running configuration. It's in GitHub. This is a private repository. And let's take a look at the history of this file. Configuration updated just now by user me, developer. And we can see right here, whoops, not right click, we can see, look what happened. Can anyone see? There's a little plus right here, meaning a line was added. Interface gigabit 1. Description, hello, Cisco Live. So we now have automated backups every time that configuration is saved.